Hello everyone and welcome to my cross-country trip YouTube series, where I travel from Connecticut all the way to San Francisco, California. I came across a few hardships along the way, but in the end, what's an adventure without anything going wrong? So without further ado, let's start the series. This is what the bike looked like, all loaded up in my driveway, ready to go. Basically packed to the brim, and not even an hour into the trip, this happened. Burned a hole in my backpack on the exhaust. By the time I got to Pennsylvania, my rear sprocket had totally messed up, and my chain had just been stretching, and that's partially because it was a really cheap chain, but I found this place called Biker's Cave. Okay, so how crazy is this? I got to a place called Biker's Cave, and my chain tensioning thing is all messed up, and my chain just keeps stretching and stretching. So this guy has a chain link puller, and he's gonna help me just pull like a link or two out to get to where I can get another chain or whatever I need to do. But he let me borrow his car to get some bolts and stuff. Like, he let me borrow his car. That's awesome. And this is what the chain looked like by the time I got into Ohio. By the time I got to Chicago, my rear sprocket looked like this. And on the way there, it was quite rainy, and there were some silos on the highway, which I've never seen transported before, which was super interesting. So luckily my brother had ordered a new chain and rear sprocket, even though it was a holiday weekend. He managed to call maybe an hour before they closed for the weekend and order the parts, and had Mazda across the way, Countryside Mazda, keep the parts so that I could pick them up. Okay, so I just got my parts, and yeah, it's kind of periodically pouring rain out here, and yeah, so there's no overhang or anything to work underneath. I just picked up my parts from the Mazda dealership because the BMW dealership isn't there. I just dropped $50 on freaking cheap-ass Husky Home Depot tools. My gear just got freaking poured on. So I'm right now at Mazda Countryside, I believe, Illinois. They're letting me use their bay to work on my bike. How awesome is that? You guys are great. I take everything back to said bad about Chicago area. Unfortunately, the chain I got didn't have a master link, since it's one of the BMW OEM chains. But fortunately, that means it was a lot stronger. So that means that I have to take off the entire rear end just to get the chain on, because it has to fit around the swing arm. So that really didn't take as long as I expected. I honestly impressed myself, which doesn't happen very often at all, about how quickly I took apart that whole thing and got it all back together. I guess it was fairly simple in the long run, but it's for something I didn't do before. I was pretty quick at it. And then this happened a mile down the road. Luckily I had a bunch of spare zip ties that I carry around in my tank bag, and that totally fixed that for the meantime. But once that was over, that was pretty much the last issue I really had with the bike until I got to California. Fortunately, not much interesting happened until I got to the Nebraska-Colorado border, where things started to get a lot nicer. I stopped at Lake McConaughey, which was a lot nicer than I expected, and was probably the coolest thing Nebraska had to offer. Granted, I had not even spent an entire day in Nebraska, so maybe my judgments were off. Anyway, in the next video of this series, you'll see shots from Lake McConaughey, and there's going to be lots of falling.